Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to achieve a glowy makeup look that is going to stay put and not rub off throughout the day. Let's do it. So when it comes to really nice dewy makeup that's actually gonna last a long time, I think it is necessary to mix products. For example, I'm gonna be taking a foundation that I think is really trustworthy. This is the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation. I wouldn't use a matte foundation, but anything satin is honestly gonna help you prolong the wear of the makeup while also making it glowy by mixing it either with like a liquid highlight, or in this case, if you use like a really glowy primer. This is the Honest Beauty Everything Glow Primer. By mixing them together, you're creating a little concoction that is actually going to dry down on the face. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix these two on the back of my hand. Then I'm just gonna mix that up with a finger. I'm going to dot it onto the face. You can see I'm kind of red today. I'm gonna focus on the cheeks, put a tiny bit on the forehead, and my nose gets super red, so I'm gonna focus there a little bit too. There's still some left on the hand, but I'm gonna start here just because I don't wanna go overboard. I have this wet beauty sponge and I'm going to take the rounded edge of this and start pushing that into the skin. This foundation is a little bit light for me, so I'm gonna be warming it up with some bronzing products later. I'm just taking that rounded edge one more time and really slowly kind of pressing with a little more force this time, those products into the skin. And voila! You can see that I do still have some like glow to the skin. It's nothing crazy, but that's okay because we're gonna be adding more glow in a little bit. So I naturally would go in with bronzer next. I'm gonna use the Cocokind Chagaglo stick. I do recommend cream products on top of a liquid base for a look that you want to look really dewy and glowy, or liquid products with a liquid base. These are so beautiful and I trust that they aren't gonna lift the makeup underneath them, so I just draw it on. I do use this stick as a little bit more of a contour a little bit as well. It comes across really, really warm on camera, but maybe in the tube you can see it's a little less warm. So I'm taking it around the perimeters of the face. I'm going to take it down the nose just a bit. I take it underneath the jaw just lightly. I'm not applying a ton of pressure, but I do think that helps. And then when it comes to the actual cheek, you want to make sure that you're feeling where your cheekbone is. And I like to cut down a little bit at a little bit of a diagonal, and then go up. So now that the cream is blended out on the face, I do want a little bit more, and I'm just gonna go in directly with the sponge. I'm trying to coat it lightly on the bottom, and I'm going to add a little bit more to the forehead. So I like better how that forehead is looking. I'm going to take a little bit more on the sponge, and I'm just gonna focus it in this back area here. Almost if you drew like a little triangle right here, and I'm not adding too much more down around the cheek area, because with a glowy look, I don't like to look super contoured. I almost want it to look like a sun-kissed kind of warmth. Next is the blush, and I'm going to be using a cream blush today. This is the Living Libations Maiden Fern Blushing Balm. I've talked about this before on the channel. I'm obsessed with it, but it has this really nice like pomegranate base or something that just creates this gorgeous red color. But if you blend it out, it creates just a very believable flush. So I like to use it in moderation since it is so pigmented. So as you can see, I'm slowly building it up on this cheek. I haven't hit this one yet. Another really great tip, I just went in with more, is to tap off excess on the back of your hand before ever going in to deposit color. I will say too that in a look like this, I do focus a little bit on the apples of the cheeks, but I try to really pack some blush in the back of the face. It helps the face look lifted. And since I'm not using as much contouring and that kind of technique, strategically placing the products I am using really helps to make sure that the face still looks lifted and kind of snatched. The thing about this blush though is that it does make you naturally flush because it has heat inducing properties in it. It doesn't like, you know, heat your face. I can't feel the heat on my face, but it does kind of bring blood to the surface. And so throughout the look, I usually have to like touch it up a little bit as the natural flush starts to come. For a super glowy look, I like to use more of a white highlight than a champagne or a gold. For something like this, I usually go for my Organic Skin Co. highlight. It's a cream highlight. I think it's in the shade Lunar. And let me just get some of this on my hand so you can see it. This is reflective. It can be seriously highlighty if you want it to be. So what I'm gonna do is get this on my finger. I'm going to pat it carefully in the areas that I want the most light. And I'm going to try to blend it out for the most part with my finger. Afterward, I'll go in with that damp sponge just to kind of smooth out the edges. I'm gonna bring it down onto the cheeks just a bit because we do want it to look, you know, appley and juicy. So for a true glowy look, I like to do what I just did, which is to go right here and underneath the brow, and then I go in up top here. So I add a little bit on the forehead as well, and it's really like right here and right here that I try to focus it. So I don't venture into this T right here. And then also just because of my nose shape, I have a bit of a hook here in my nose. So I like to highlight this like little dip to bring it forward and make it look like my nose is a little bit more even. So I always put highlight right there. You do not have to. And then I'm just very carefully dabbing it on the tip of my nose, not getting it too far all over the place. And then on my Cupid's bow. And this is where I'm gonna go back in with a sponge and just make sure that all of that is patted into the skin. That's something you want to take time on. So in assessing this face of makeup that I have on, I've looked a little bit at the blush that I originally used. I love that blush. I'm glad that I have it as a base, but I want to use something a little bit more pinky and bright. So I'm going to go in with this Honest Beauty cream blush in the shade Peony Pink. And I'm just going to add this slowly. So I'm going to do that to both sides of the face, add a little more blush over here, put a little more highlight on the cheeks specifically, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I put that dew on that I wanted, and as you can see, the entire cheek is just kind of glowing right now. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is going in with this Well People Bio Base Baked Brightener. This is in the shade Universal Glow. I've mentioned this on my channel before, but people kind of disagree, or at least people are divided on how they use this. It is a powder, and it can be used just as a setting powder, but also it does have kind of a sheen to it. You can use it as a super natural highlight, but in a look like this, I like to use it as a setting powder. So I'm using this sponge that is made for powders. You don't have to use a sponge that's just for powders. I just am extra and I'm doing that today. And then I'm going to use this to just go underneath the eyes. And I am squeezing it a little bit, so I just have that flat end underneath the area that I want it in my eyes, but I'm not going all the way down onto all of this highlight that I've nicely created. I'm gonna dab that on my chin because I don't like my chin to be super dewy in a dewy look. I think that really adds to the look of oiliness. And then I just hit that center spot between the two areas that I highlighted. I'm gonna take just a little tiny bit of this Burt's Bees mattifying powder. It is in a like beigey shade that kind of matches me. And I'm just going to very carefully place it in this corner underneath the eye. And that not only acts as a little bit of a concealer, helps brighten it up a little bit, but it also makes sure that underneath the eye is looking both brightened and matte. Okay, that complexion is looking absolutely gorgeous. We're still looking very dewy and glowy. I could even add a little bit of that glow back in a little bit if I want to do that, but let me go ahead and get the eyes done first. Choosing eyeshadow for a look like this is really fun because you can go so many different ways with it. You can just take the highlight that you have and maybe the bronzer and, you know, put the bronzer in the crease and the highlight on the lid. You can do a full-on glossy eye where you just put that highlight all over the lid. That's going to turn into more of like a glass skin look. I typically do try to keep it a little simple though, just choose like 1 or 2 colors to go on the lid. Maybe just one as like an overall wash is a good rule if you're not sure where you want to go with it. And I like to choose a color that is still kind of light, nothing too dark. And so I'm thinking today that I want to use this glittery like ballerina pink shade in this Aether Summer Solstice palette. This is what it's looking like on the hand. And I'm going to just tap this on the lid. Oh my gosh, these are so beautiful, this formula. Especially when you want to do just a wash of color, Aether is the way you want to go. Now, as you can see right now, the way that I first applied it was kind of in this horizontal shape, and so you see that it almost is closing the eye off. You absolutely can do that, and it's going to be a little bit more of a sultry vibe, but I like, and I'm going to go in with just a little bit more here, I like to bring that shade up. So it's not horizontal, it goes up and out a little bit more. I think that that goes for more of like an awake, youthful look again, which we kind of did on the cheeks already. I am going to be using the Burt's Bees eyebrow pencil and the Iliad Limitless Lash mascara today. So I'm going to go ahead and do this to the other side with the same eyeshadow, and then I'm going to apply both of these and I will be right back. Eyelashes are done, the brows are combed through. I do try to leave the front of the brows pretty sparse and just fill in the edges for a look like this. So for the lips, you can just do something really, really light, glossy, but sometimes I kind of like to amp a look like this up by doing something a little bit deeper. So what I'm gonna do is go in with the Mented Lip Pencil in M5. This is a nice deep brown color. And then I'm gonna go into something that I have not used in a while. I don't know if I've ever used this specific one on the channel. This is the 100% Pure Lip Caramel. It's in the shade Truffle. It's a little bit more of like a mauvey plummy kind of thing. I think it goes really well with fall. Okay, so that's what the lip liner is looking like. Let me go ahead and go in with this lip shade. So that is a little bit more of a power lip with a really glowy, fun look. But if you really want to go over the top, then you can go back in to that cream highlight you used. I'm just getting a good amount on my finger, puckering, and then we're gonna apply it in the center. Okay, so this is almost done, but for a look where you wanna go with a little bit more glow, I really recommend using a setting spray. I'm gonna be using this Pacifica Rose Flower Hydro Mist. And then I'm just gonna dry that off. And then I'm just taking that same wet sponge that I used at the beginning to apply foundation and such, and just kind of tap everything into the skin one more time. All right, guys, so that is it for the makeup look. What do you think? Did we achieve the true glowy vibe that we were going for? For more vegan and cruelty-free makeup content just like this, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I will see you in the next video.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes.